All right, this meeting is being recorded.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome all the teams. Hope all the drivers have been able to join us. And if not, as Jason said, we are recording this and we'll get this handed out to everybody. So welcome. This is the remote portion of the drivers meeting. We're going to be doing this for the UIL as well as the state championship. So head referees for the event are myself as the event head, Mr. Mark Chafin, Mr. Victor Rojo, Miss Angela Blackwell, and Miss Erica Diggs. I see one of them on the line there. Victor, go ahead and give us a good wave there. And if anybody else has any questions, by all means, hit us up. We're here. Additionally, we have a lot of folks from all the regions that are going to be doing the rules, scoring, and everything else. So as a state, we're well represented for this event. The audience for this drivers meeting is truly statewide. We've got teams from all over the state, all 5 regions, and we're all going to come together and have one huge event, and it's going to be lots of fun. So if you have questions as we're going through all this, please ask them in the chat, or if you'd rather, just wait. There'll be a full Q&A at the end of this, and we'll get everybody, make sure we get everybody's questions answered. This is being recorded, so we'll get this passed out to everybody. And I'm not sure what just happened on my screen. But let's go ahead and reshare that and see what we get. Sharing that. That should be that, I think. So if you have anything, like as soon as we get done with this and you have, that question pops up and you go, hey, oh man, I wish I could have asked that. There's going to be an in-person one at the event. So, don't worry about it. You can get your question answered. All right, the UIL tournament. It's going to be 3 separate divisions. It's going to be 1A through 4A, 5A, and 6A. Each one of those divisions will have their own head, and you'll meet them all at the event. We're going to be doing 6 matches per team, so a lot of matches. One of the big things with having a lot of matches like this is that we need everybody to be where they need to be when they need to be there. And we'll kind of talk about that some more as we get through this. Okay, state tournament is only 2 divisions. The 2 different fields, the odds and evens. And you should have already gotten your assignment as to which division you're going to be in. And again, we're also going to be doing 6 matches. And at the end of that, at the end of the division finals, we'll come together and have a state tournament final as well for a final win. Remember, both UIL and state, everybody's coming into this event with the exact same thing, just ranking points of 0 and tiebreaker points of 0. So nobody's carrying anything over from their leagues, from their regionals, from anything else. Everything is strictly starting from scratch. All right, your pants. You're gonna have a 10 by 10. You're gonna have access to a 110 outlet with a 10 amp circuit on it. Things you need to bring. You need to make sure you bring an extension cord, because the outlet isn't going to be probably near your pit. So bring a big one. Bring a 50-foot. Make sure you bring tape to secure it to the floor, and bring everything else that you need. Big one here is, what do you not bring? Anything with glitter. Leave the glitter at home, please. It's a mess to clean up, and it's a mess throughout the entire competition. So please keep all the glitter at your house. Tournament schedule. Not going to read it to you. It's out there on the website. That's it. So going to have a lot of things going on here. And biggest thing the teams can do to make all this happen, make sure that we have inspections done. Run your pre-inspection the night before. We're going to be using the tablets and doing a digital inspection the morning of the event. But if you look at the back of Game Manual 1, Appendix B and C, respectively, they are the exact same forms, only we'll have them on a tablet. So, get your inspection done and do it yourself so that when you come to the event, it's not something that you're trying to fight through. Okay. Um, remember, we're here to have fun, but we're here to do it safely and with the first wide credo of gracious professionalism. So I'll just leave that at that. It is assumed that all the teams are familiar with the rules as presented in Game Manuals 1 and 2, as well as any clarifications that have been made in the forums. If you are not familiar with the game manuals in the forums, you need to be. So this should not be anything new. If it is, please drop a note in the chat there, and so we can get you links to everything. Everything on this slide may sound redundant and basic, but even at the most recent competitions that I've been at, we have still been having teams that we have to warn about making sure they have their safety gear when they come to the field. And so just please, we're here to do this thing safely and we don't want to have any issues. I reiterate, we're here to have fun, but we need to do it safely. So notice here that 3 of the competition rules reinforce that safety is a priority. The field shouldn't be a surprise either. Alliance markers, badges, safety glasses are all required in queuing. No software changes in queuing. No electronic communications past queuing. Anything that can be mistaken by the casual observer as being in violation of G11, which is the electronic communications rule, then just please put it in a pocket. Leave it with parent. Leave it, don't have it with you. Okay, the big ones here, earbuds and AirPods, headphones, things like that. You can't have them with you at the field. They don't need to leave queuing. Put them in a pocket or something. Turn times. Turn times are going to be start and maintained at a fairly high speed. That's how we're going to be able to have so many matches. The only way we can do that is if everybody's doing what they need to do as well. So I need the teams to make sure that you're in queuing on time. I need to make sure that you're in queuing when the match on the field before you is playing. You need to be in queuing. So if you're in match 3, you need to be in queuing when match 1 is on the field. If you're in match 5, as soon as match 3 goes to the field, you need to be in queuing. This is going to be odds and evens for the state tournament. It's still being worked out for the UIL if we're going to be able to have 2 fields or not, because we have the extra division. It's an equipment thing, and we're trying to get it all pieced together, equipment and personnel. So we'll get that pieced together at the event, and we'll make sure you're aware, is it going to be a single field or a double field at the UIL event. Keep an eye on the schedule, because remember, it's not a timed thing. So even if the schedule were to have the times printed on it, that's not what we're going by. We're going by how the field is running. So if the field is running a little fast, we're going to be running matches a little fast. Need to be in queuing a little faster. Incorrect alliance markers seem to keep making it to the field. I am not sure how you can look at your schedule and it says you're red and you put blue markers on your bot. I don't know how this is happening, but it's still happening. So make sure you have the correct markers. And make sure that you are not going to incur any match delay penalties, D13E. If it is something that you think that you're going to be a little bit late, get to queuing faster. All right. Pro tip there on this is put both of the alliance markers in the coach's pocket. That way, if you do happen to make it somewhere with the wrong markers, you've got the other set, you can fix it right quick. While you're at queuing, not only should you be checking over your own team members, but also check over all of your alliance partners. Ensure that everybody has their safety glasses on their eyes, not on their foreheads or in the back of their eyes or in their pocket, Yeah, make sure you got them on your face. Queuing is also where you need to discuss which team is going to be bringing the alliance's human player. Remember, there's only one human player per alliance, and that alliance is the one that is in the schedule that is marked as red 1 or blue 1, and that's under competition rule 6. So only the drive team members are allowed to come to the competition area, and all of them should be appropriately badged. So 1 coach, up to 2 drivers, and a max of 1 human player per alliance. And that 1 human player, again, needs to be decided and figured out in queuing and make it happen. Okay? We will be following a similar transition to field control like we use at World Championships. If you're from the Central, it's the same thing we've used Central all year. And I'm fairly certain this is how most of the events, at least at the regionals, and probably at your league tournaments, all win as well. The head referee owns the field from the time the FTA confirms robot setup is complete until that head ref releases the robots for field reset. Okay. This includes the randomization of the field. This includes all the match periods. This includes the post-match score certification. The FTA owns the field all the other times. So when the FTA hands the field over, the head ref is going to go straight into it and go team select your autonomous op mode and initialize robot. And we're going to start the process. Okay. When you come over to the field, the FTA is going to have the ownership of the field, and the FTA is going to tell you, hey, if you need to do a wiggle test, do it. You don't need to ask us. You just put your bot down and do your wiggle test. Remember, this is a check of connectivity between the driver station and the robot controller. It is not a capability check. You're not making sure your robot can do what you want it to. We just need to make sure that the things are talking. Okay, it is intended to be a small movement. It's a twitch of a servo, a quarter revolution of the drivetrain. It can just simply turn on and off an LED. We don't care what it is. Again, we're just trying to make sure that your driver station is talking to the robot controller. That's all that that's all that a wiggle test is for. Once your robot is on the field, if you need to calibrate any sensors, do so. This is your time. We don't want you to end up getting the delay of match penalties. At the same time, listen to your field personnel, especially in the first few matches of the day, of each day, and as we're coming back from lunch. The big thing there is you can't leave your robot just left on and powered and initialized for too long. So we don't want to initialize until the opposite field is getting close to hitting NT. That way you're only initialized about 30 to 40 seconds before we're ready to start counting down. Okay. So make sure you're listening to the field personnel. And if you have any questions, ask them. Ask your field personnel if they, should I be initialized? Yes, if that's the case, or no, if not. Okay. Once the FTA hands the field over to the head ref, we're going to start that. Hey, teams, are you select your autonomous op mode and initialize your robots? Blue Alliance, are you ready? We want to see a thumbs up all the way down the entire Alliance station. Everybody needs to give us a good thumbs up. That way we know that human player is ready, that bots are going to be live right in front of them here in a few minutes. We know that that there's not a robot that somebody's still trying to tweak, get ready to go. So give us that thumbs up. Next side, Red Alliance, are you ready? Thumbs up all the way down on that side as well. All right, last thing there is place your driver stations in the hands-off area. At that point in time, your thumbs up that you've given us indicates that you are initialized and that you are ready to start the match. You are ready for us to randomize, which means if you touch anything, you're going to get the penalties or you're not going to be able to get the signal bonuses. So make sure you're paying attention and you understand that that's what that thumbs up means. Okay, by now, all the teams should no longer need to double tap for the init start. If you do still need to do that, please drop your team number in the chat so that we can be completely aware and we can see if we can't get you the help you need before the event to keep that from happening. The entire point of the double tap was being allowed by the GDC as an interim, as a stopgap, not as how they intended you to actually run a match. So if at the same time, we're not going to keep a team from playing. So if you need to do it, we're going to make that accommodation, but it should not be something that you need to do at this point. Autonomous. Head referee will start the match with 3, 2, 1, go. It may be the MCs or the announcers. I'm not sure if we've fully got all that worked out as to who is going to be the MCs and the announcers yet. So I know at different regionals, we've done it slightly different. We would really prefer that the MCs were the ones starting those matches because that's how you're going to be doing it at Worlds for those who get who make it on. If not, it's going to be the head referee. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It's the same thing. 3, 2, 1, go. On go is when you hit start. Okay, that's when you hit that run button. Remember, no one can touch the robots during the match, including the field personnel. Referees don't even, we can't do anything. The only one that has that exception is the FTA if they feel that they can stop something from happening. So if they start seeing smoke or something, they're going to reach in there and flip a power button. That's why you have to put the little sticker on there telling us where things are. There will be 5 referees around the field. So if one of them comes up behind you during that autonomous driver control transition, they'll tap you on the shoulder or something and ask you to move. Slide out the way, let them score the field. They're just making sure if your bot made it into the right signal zone or not. Sometimes we need to get a closer look, and we don't always have the best vantage from the front or the back of the field. Alliance stations. During a match, the drivers and the coaches must remain in the driver stations, okay, or in the alliance stations. Touching the driver station after randomization will result in you not getting the signal bonus. During the autonomous period, drive teams may not directly or indirectly control or interact with the robots or the driver stations. It's a penalty. So don't do it. All right, now we're into driver control. Okay, the software will tell you 3, 2, 1, go. That is when you hit start or the run button, not before that. On go. If we see you hit the start or the run during the previous 8 seconds of the transition, you're going to get the penalty for an early start. Okay, don't do that. The start is on the go. So you'll hear the software, 3, 2, 1, go, hit the start button. Okay. Reminder number 2, G16, stay in your alliance station. We know you get excited, but beware where your feet are. It's just reminder number 2. Remember, as per G23, the coach position of the drive chain is not allowed to touch the controllers at any time during the match. They can hold the driver station itself, but they cannot touch the controller. If you think you're being blocked, then yell out, call out, get loud. We will make the determination. We may not agree with what you think you're seeing, but we will make that determination. Okay. Remember, G28 says that blocking is when all paths to a location are blocked. Not necessarily the way that you want to go, but all paths to it. So if there's a robot that's just sitting there and it would be really easy for you to drive straight through them, yeah, it doesn't matter. You have to drive around them. They're not blocking you. And so descoring the opposing alliance's cones is not allowed. Period. Done. You may not descore any beacon, including your own. I don't know what to say on this one. Drive team, read rule GS13 before every match. I have handed out more GS13 penalties this entire season, all the way up through the regionals, and I just finished up the Romanian Nationals, and about half the penalties were GS13 penalties. You can't be in the substation at the same time the human player and a robot. Period. Done. Read the rule, make sure you're aware. Reminder number 3, G16, stay in your alliance station. I know in the heat of the match, your focus starts to get really isolated and you just want to score. And that's okay. But I still need you to be cognizant of where your feet are. Still need you to make sure that you're staying in the alliance station. That's partly a safety thing because we need you to, you've got 5 refs around the field. We need them to be able to safely score the field and make sure that nobody's doing anything that deserves penalty. At the same time, It promotes fair competition. You can't be way outside of your bot, outside of the alliance stations, looking to see where your robot is. Everybody has to stay inside their alliance station. GS14A states a beacon introduced in the playing field prior to the start of in-game is not eligible for scoring. It's the rule. The end of the match. If the end of the match is signaled by the start of the buzzer, so when you start to hear the buzzer, that's the end of the match. At that time, you need to press the stop button, and the robot needs to be at rest or at least in freewheeling motion by the end of the buzzer. Okay, you cannot be under power at the end of the buzzer or you get a late stop. The buzzer's length is the human reaction time. So buzzer starts to the time the buzzer stops is when you have the human reaction time to be able to hit stop and get the controllers. Okay. Wait for the referee to indicate that it is safe to pick up your robot before entering the field. Please remember to remove all game elements, cones, signals. Take your beacons with you, please. But leave the cones and the signals. Don't make me have to hunt somebody down. We had to do that at the regional at least twice here in the central region, where somebody ran off with a cone and we didn't have a spare that was easily found for a little while. So please make that happen. Just a reminder, this is FTC, it is not FLL. There are not team review of the scores at the field. If you have a question about something, after the score is posted, come over to the question box. We'll talk about it. If it is a question about a specific match, I'm going to make sure that we grab the right head referee. So if you are on match one, or if you were in an odd match, we're going to grab the head ref from field one. If you're in an even match, we'll grab the head ref from field two. If it is just a question about, I've got this strategy and we're thinking about it, we just don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to get the penalties. And so you just, you want to run something by us, jump in the question box. I'll be there. I'll field that kind of question. If it's a question about just general, hey, this rule, we think that they should have gotten a penalty. Let's talk about it. We can talk about the rules. Make sure that you bring your materials when you come to the question box. Make sure that it is one student member of the alliance that is brought to the question box. And if it is something that you need to, you think it's going to change the score or something, it needs to be within 3 matches. So, and everybody else needs to remain out of hearing range. So if the question is about match 4, then before match 8 begins, so you got 5, 6, and 7. Before match 8 begins, you need to be in the question box. We understand we're not always able to get to that question box as super fast, and that's okay. We will get there. As long as we acknowledge that, hey, you made it, then we're good, okay? If the question is about a ruling, again, I'm going to make sure you got the right head ref there to answer that question. Remember, as per the competition rules, CO2A, referees will not review any recorded match replays or photographs. Remember, you don't have to agree with the head refs, but you have to accept that they are the final authority on any call. Since this is a dual division event, I will be the event head. And if there are concerns that you feel need to escalate beyond your head ref of your field or your division, I'm the final. So we're done. It's to me, and that's the end. The referee crews are going to make calls based on what they observe. It is not possible for us to make a comprehensive list of all the possible scenarios or comment absolutely on all the hypothetical situations. So,
Hey, Bill.
in other words, yeah.
Hey, Bill, sorry to cut you off there or interrupt. The screen went black for us, your screen share.
All right. I was afraid that might have happened. I'm not exactly sure why it keeps dropping the screen on me, but.
All right, we can see you
is
again.
The screen back?
The
awesome.
screen's
Thank
back.
you much. So the referees are going to make the calls based on what they observe. If you know, if you want to come to the question box and ask some what if scenarios, I can give you some what if answers. I, you know, we can talk our philosophy, we can talk the intent, and you know, all that's welcomed and encouraged. So if you have a question, by all means, come to the question box and let's talk about it. At the same time, I can't give you final answers that say, yes, if you do this, you won't get a penalty. Most of the time, especially for what if something. All right. This one has been a great debate throughout the Q&A forums throughout the year. It's been debated and clarified a lot. This is the final answer is, if the cone stack is in contact with the playing field wall, and that same cone stack is in contact with your robot, then you are in control of the entire stack. So if during autonomous, part of your game is to go up and tap the cones, you need to back off before you pick up the top cone. Okay. All of the questions are kind of up there. I'm not going to go through them. They are what they are. Read through the Q&A forum, please. If your robot has 2 points of contact with a cone, then you are in control of the cone. So if you have control of the top cone, that's perfectly legal. That's perfectly fine. If your cone stack is pushed up against the sidewall and your robot is still in contact with any of the cones in that stack and then starts to grab the top cone, now you're in control of the stack and you're going to get the penalty. Cone stack movement. Again, this has been debated. It's been clarified. End result is, if you move the cone stack 1 inch, then you will get the penalty. 1 inch is easily defined as long as it is parallel movement to the sidewall. And as soon as we see that tape edge, you've moved the cone stack 1 inch, you get the penalty. That does not mean that's the only time you get the penalty. If you move the cone stack forward into the field or any other direction, it may not reveal that full tape edge before it is deemed to be 1 inch. The game manuals, they haven't been updated in quite some time, you know, back to October. So, and even then it was only for some minor wordsmithing. So there should be no surprises. We will announce the last forum question to be used and forced during the on-site drivers meeting at the event, just because it'll go final on Thursday night. So I can tell you everything up to today will count. I just can't tell you what that final question is going to be until Thursday. If you are not familiar with these resources, please stay after so we can make sure that you get all these links. Hardware inspection. All team scoring elements need to be inspected prior to an event, prior to the event during a regular robot inspection. If you have a micro beacon, make sure that you make the reps aware as you're coming to the field, because if we don't see it, it didn't happen. If we go to score something and we don't see that there's a beacon there, then it didn't happen and you won't get the score. So if you do have one of these micro beacons, make sure you make us aware. Yell, be loud. Field inspections. This is super important. Only matching versions pass. There are only 2 versions as of yesterday. I'm hoping they aren't going to release anything by this weekend. They should be finalized all the way through Worlds at this point, unless there's a major bug that gets found. But Driver Station version 8.1.1 is only compatible with Control Hub or Robot Controller version 8.1.1. Same thing, Driver Station version 8.0 is only compatible with version 8.0. You will not pass field inspection if they don't match. So if you have 8.1.1 on one and 8.0 on the other, you're not going to pass. And then we're going to have to try and get you updated or get you downgraded, something to get a matching set. And I really don't want to have to do that at the event, because all that really does is lead to your bot behaving in ways that you haven't practiced. So please make sure your software matches well before the event. Also, big note, if you're running version 8.1, you should upgrade or downgrade one of the two. 8.1 has a bug in it and it will cause problems. Either go down to 8.0 or up to 8.11. The easiest way to make sure you're doing this is in Android Studio. All you got to do is make sure your driver station matches in Android Studio matches whatever version is on your controller. All right. With that, I would normally hand it over to the FTA. Is the FTA on tonight?
I don't believe
do
so.
not.
Let's see. Lon?
I don't believe so, no.
No. But Bill, I do have
Cool.
some questions for you in the chat.
Yeah.
All right. Sri has asked, are drive team members allowed to kneel down inside the Alliance station?
Drive team, no. Human player, yes.
All right. Crystal, one of our drive team is using a walker due to hip surgery. Can he be on the edge of the driver area?
Definitely. Make sure we get that team noted down just so we are well aware. In the on-site drivers meeting, make sure you bring it to my attention just so I can put a face to the team and we can make sure that we fully accommodate you. We don't want anybody to not participate.
Okay. Sean is asking, are we allowed to pick up controllers during the 8 seconds between autonomous and teleop?
Yes, you can pick everything up. It can be in your hands and ready to go. You just can't hit run. You can select it. You can initialize it. You can get it all ready. It's just 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Rohan is asking, is the human player allowed to touch a cone, example, to upright it? That is already in the substation as long as there is no robot present.
Absolutely not. Once the human player places the cone is done. That's all there is to it. If it gets knocked over by a robot, if it gets knocked over by the human player, doesn't matter. Once the human player's hand leaves it, it's done. It's kind of chess rules there.
Okay. Next question is from Hot Dogs. To clarify in end of match section, when should the stop button be pressed? At the end of the buzzer or at the start?
It is human reaction time starts at the start of the buzzer, and you have until the end of the buzzer to have completely hit the stop and put everything down. This is one of those kind of weird sticky points. If you don't hit stop, that's perfectly fine and you're not going to get penalized. That has been clarified in the forums. But at the same time, if you hit stop and your robot starts to move later, we're going to score it at the end of motion. So if gravity starts holding and gravity, and your arm comes down and it touches your beacon doesn't count. In a cone, you're touching cone.
All right. Eric is asking, can we have more than one point of contact on the pole junction?
No. If you are opposite planes or not in the same plane, then you are grasping. So where that has been clarified is if you have 2 points of contact in the same plane pushing, then that is okay.
Okay. The dork side is asking, our question, how does the human player selection process work? Can a human player only be from Red Alliance 1 and Blue Alliance 1?
It is the Red Alliance 1 and Blue Alliance 1 team that gets to make the decision for the alliance. The human player doesn't have to come from their team, but if there is a dispute between Red 1 and Red 2, who's going to bring the human player to the field? Red 1 makes the final decision.
All right, let's see. During driving control, counted as parking if we park in the substation?
I believe so.
Okay.
Now you're asking hard questions. I gotta go look that up. I'll get to
Wh-
that one. We'll come back to that one. What's next?
Okay. When should we init for driver control?
Driver control. When the FTA comes by and the FTA will tell you initialize your robots. That's when you initialize. The big one where I can't just say a blanket answer is because like the first match of the day, the folks who are on field 2, they're not going to initialize immediately.
No,
Folks who are on
the
field
question
1,
is, when do they initialize for the tele-op period?
oh, so during the transition period?
During the game, yes.
During your 8 seconds. During your 8 seconds, you initialize. You just can't hit the run button. That start button, that final start is the 3, 2, 1, go. But yes, please initialize your robots before that.
Okay. Ashwin is asking, could you clarify what you said about double tap initialize in play?
Okay. If your robot is one of the robots that when you initialize, you have motion other than a servo reset or something of that nature, but you have something where an arm's oscillating, or you have wheels that start to move, or something of that nature, then you've got your initialization code written incorrectly. That is what the double tap is for. If that is the case and you think this is something that you need to do, then please drop your team number in the chat so we can talk.
Okay. Iron Eagles is asking, if a claw grabbing a cone from the cone stack touches the field wall, is the robot considered to be controlling the whole cone stack?
The robot touches the field wall? No.
Okay.
If the robot is in contact with the cone stack and the cone stack is also in contact with the wall, then yes.
Okay. There's a question, and I'll take this one. Will we be able to use tents? And if you're referring to a tent inside your pit, yes, as long as it does not exceed the 10 foot by 10 foot pit diameter. Next question is from Dev G. Say you move the cone stack 0.5 inches when grabbing one cone, then you move it 0.5 inch again when grabbing another cone. Would you get a penalty for moving it an inch anyway?
Yes. It is a cumulative total. If it happens in a single motion, then you get the penalty in that single motion. If it happens over multiple motions, then you get the penalty as it happens in that over the multiple motions. If you move it a half inch, and then you move it a half inch, so now you've moved it an inch, that's one penalty. If you continue to move it another half inch the next time you touch the cone stack, and then you move it a second half inch, you're going to get a second set of penalties for moving it that half inch, for moving it that full inch again.
Okay. Marvels of Mass is asking, if our robot is getting in the way of another team actively, but is attempting to score, is it considered shadowing or anything else that would cause a penalty?
Potentially. It depends on the protected state of the bot that is potentially shadowing, as well as the protected state of the bot that they are shadowing. So if you're actively scoring and you have a cone over the top of the junction, then you are protected. So you can't be shadowing them. At the same time, if you're not and you're moving with them, then yes.
All right. What controller did you say had a bug?
It's not the controller. It is the firmware versions for version 8.1 is the one that has the bug in it. So you either need to be running 8.0 or 8.1.1.
All right. Can we stop the autonomous in the middle of the period? Example, touch the driver station.
No. No, you can't. The software is supposed to be written so that it will automatically stop at the end of the 30 seconds. If I will leave one caveat to that, and that is if there's a safety issue and the referee says hit stop, yes, hit stop. You're not going to get penalized for listening for us telling you to hit stop. At the same time, you can't just hit stop because my robot just rolled into the substation and that's where I wanted to stop. So there I'm going to hit stop.
All right. Annie is asking if they can have personal hotspots in the pit area. No, you're not allowed to have any hotspots in the venue due to just the pure volume of teams that we have there. We don't want to risk having any interference. So no hotspots are welcome at the state champs. Next question from Carlo. How many cones can be placed inside by human player at a time?
As the rule says, one scoring element entered into the field by the human player at a time.
All right. Gail is asking, is the human player allowed to place multiple cones in the substation as long as they place them one at a time?
Yes, definitely. You can place as many as you want, as long as they are not forced, as long as you're not forcing any cone outside of the substation.
All right. Memphis is asking, what should teams call out in the event they feel that there is blocking?
Hey, they're blocking. No, just yell, get her attention.
Okay. Let's see. Jay is asking, can a team sit in front of the other alliance's substation as long as there is another path for them to grab cones?
I cannot definitively answer that without seeing what's happening. If you are sitting in that area and you're not actively trying to score, then odds are you're going to get told to move.
All right, let's see. Mustangs, at the end of the match, can we talk to the referees regarding what we saw for scoring?
One more time?
At the end of the match, can we talk to the referees regarding what we saw for scoring?
One person in the question box. Yes.
Yeah, just to clarify that, no, you cannot have a conversation with the referee on the field, but if you have
Correct.
questions about the score, go to the question box. Annie has another question. How many and how much penalty for cone stack moved over 1 inch? Any difference between auto and teleop?
There is no difference between auto and teleop. The answer is it's control of how many cones you're in control of. So if there's 5 of them in the stack, you can only control 4. You can only control 1, so you're going to get 4 penalties. And
Right.
going back to that original half-inch question previously, if it starts out with the 5 and you move it a half inch and you pick up the 1, well, you're under that inch, so that one didn't get penalized. You hit it that second time, there's 4 of them in the stack now, and you move it that second half inch, which now takes you to the 1 inch mark. There's now 4 in the stack, so you would get the 3 penalties. Remember, the first one's free because you can control 1.
All right, sounds good. The Nano Trojans, if our robot moved the cone stack minimally during the autonomous period, will it be a penalty?
1 inch. And it doesn't matter if it's moved a half inch during autonomous and then a half inch during driver control. As soon as it moves 1 inch, it's moved an inch.
All right. Do we have until the end of the buzzer in between the autonomous and driver control period to finish our autonomous?
Your autonomous should stop automatically at the end of the 30 seconds anyway. So unless you started late, you should not stop late.
All right.
If you are stopping after that 30 seconds, then yes, you're going to get the late stop.
Okay. Owen's asking, how much can a robot move on initialization for autonomous?
It depends on what you mean by move. If it is a servo reset, servo could do full rotation, and that's okay. It's a one-time motion, done. If that servo sits there and goes, and it's just oscillating back and forth, then no.
All right. Are human players allowed to stack cones inside the substation?
You can enter one cone at a time, and if you choose to stack it, by all means. But the same rules apply that you can only be in control of one. So your robot has to be able to unstack the cone.
All right, got a request for clarification for the term parking.
Okay. As far as what? If we go to the game manual 2, and autonomous navigating, a robot parked in their alliance's substation earns 2 points. A robot parked in their alliance's terminal closest to the alliance station earns 2 points. So that's the parking this year is referred to as navigating, and that is the case for autonomous. For end game, navigating is defined as a robot parked at either of their alliance terminals earns 2 points.
All right, Thomas is giving us a hypothetical situation here. If a team A has a ground game junction that links to the terminal and creates a circuit, if team B scores the cone on the ground junction, disrupting the circuit, what would be the penalty for team B?
It is a discore penalty. So it just becomes one of those where we have to take in the intent, and it is a very subjective thing. If the referee squad believes that the D-score was intentional, then it escalates to the G30 rules, where it's not gracious professionalism for you to intentionally break a rule, knowing that the outcome is going to be that they don't get the circuit. So I can't give a black and white answer because it's not a black and white question.
Gotcha. Diego's asking, and this is a long one, if there is one point of contact with the cones at the base of a junction, does this violate the grasping rule? For example, a V-shaped aligner or a claw should violate the grasping rule, but a C-shaped aligner with a diameter above 4 inches would not. Is this correct?
Without further clarification of that, I can't answer that definitively. So I'm going to add a little bit of clarification to my answer. If that C-shaped appendage is in contact with the cone, and that cone is also in contact with the sidewall, then you are now in controlling the entire stack. If that cone stack is not in contact with the sidewall and you're in contact with the bottom, then it is strictly you're in contact with the bottom. That's okay.
All right, Sebastian is asking, could you please redefine the stack controlled penalties?
Controlling more than one cone is controlling more than one cone. So that is the penalty. If there's 4 of them in the stack and you can control one, that means you got 3 penalties.
All right, Eric is saying, so to clarify, if we have an arm that extends to the junction to help line up the cones we are putting on that junction, is that allowed or not allowed?
I'm not sure I'm fully understanding the question.
Yeah, we'll come back to that, see if there's a clarification a little further down. Can you please clarify what is considered shadowing another robot?
Shadowing, if this robot moves this way and you follow them, you're now shadowing them so that they can't go.
All right. Let's see. Can robots be on and manipulated during queuing, or do they need to be off while in queuing?
They need to be off while in queuing. And they need to be off anytime they are being carried or transported.
Okay. Doesn't the cone stack start against the wall? If so, how would we prevent the cone stack from touching the wall?
You don't touch the cone stack. It's not that the cone stack can't touch the wall. It does start at the wall, and your robot doesn't start touching the cone stack. So you just don't touch the cone stack.
All right. Alejandro has a question for you, and this one seems like a technicality. Are we allowed to descore our own cones from a junction? B,
Yes.
if we do so, do we get the GS8 scoring protections while in the act?
This is going to be one of those where we're going to have to see what's happening and what you're doing.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's more to this one. And C, if an opposing team places their cone on our cone as we are in the act of descoring, do we have to stop to not incur the penalty for controlling an opposing cone?
If they are already on the junction while you were trying to be on the junction, then yes, they now own the junction, not you.
All right. If a cone is knocked down within the substation, can the human player stand it up with their hands? I believe that was already answered no.
Yep.
Yep. Once it's placed, it's placed. That's it. Okay. Shane, what counts as in the substation? Does it have to be within the tape lines or just touching the tape?
It has to be breaking the plane of the tape. So it can be all the way out on that far edge, as long as it's breaking the plane of the tape, any part of the tape.
All right. Team 7172 says, can the answer about sitting in front of the substation be repeated? The audio cut off at the end.
The human player is allowed to kneel or sit on the floor. That is what has been passed along via the forums.
Okay. Can you push the cone stack into the wall during autonomous?
If you push it, and then while still in contact with the cone stack in contact with the wall, and you take the one off the top, you were in control of the entire stack.
Okay.
If you tap it and back off and then take one off, you're perfectly fine. It is that momentary contact that's fine. Don't remain in contact.
All right. We have another technicality question. If you move a stack, then move it back, would you get a penalty?
If you moved it an inch,
yeah,
then you get the penalty for moving it. And if you move it back, you get a second penalty for moving it another inch.
Yeah. The presuming it's within the 1 inch though.
If you were just moving it a half inch each way, and you move it a half inch and move it back a half inch, move it a half inch, move it back, then you're perfectly fine. The GDC has said that is within the tolerance that they expect motion to happen.
All right, let's see. How is the cone stack movement measured when it's not moving parallel to the field wall?
My eyeball. Victor's eyeball. Mark's eyeball.
Right.
We're the ones making the call. We have to make the call. There is no definitive. I can't give you a black and white answer. It is don't. The answer is don't move it. Don't make us have to make the call.
All right. Is a human player allowed to put the beacon on a cone before placing it in the substation?
No. You can enter a single scoring element at a time. So one cone in, one beacon in, not a cone and a beacon together in.
All right. If another robot hits us in autonomous period and we get knocked off our path and knock the cone stack over, will we get a penalty?
We're going to have to see what's happening. And again, this is a very subjective thing, and I can't give a clean answer. We have been told to err on the side of not benefit of the doubt to the team. So unless we see that something was very obviously something that you could have prevented or should have had within your control, then odds are you will not get the penalty.
All right, here's another hypothetical. If Team A needs a circuit to win and is about to cap the circuit, but Team B bumps into Team A, causing them to drop their cone, would there be a penalty for Team B, even if they say it was accidental?
If the team that was in the process of scoring is over the top of the junction, then they are within the protections provided by GSA. So they would get the penalty in that case. If they are not over the junction and they were just like on their way to score and they got bumped, well, that's part of the game.
All right, team 19587 has a question, another question about the guide. Under what conditions is a junction guide allowed, C or V shaped appendage that is attached to the outtake to align the outtake with the junction?
Okay, one more time.
Yeah. Under what condition is a junction guide allowed? Example, a C or V shaped appendage that is attached to the outtake to align the outtake with the junction.
When it has a radius larger than the cone.
Right. Okay.
If it's a V shape, then you're going to end up with 2 points of contact, and that's not allowed.
All right. Looks like the spicy ketchup has a question here. If you are trying to pick up a cone off the cone stack, how are you supposed to avoid touching the cone stack? Do you mean touching the whole stack?
I mean, touching anything other than the top cone. So if the cone stack, which starts against the sidewall, then your robot comes up and sandwiches it and is touching any of the other cones in that cone stack and then grabs the top cone, you are in control of the entire stack.
All right, good. You just answered 3 questions right there. All right, Luke is asking if a micro beacon is scored over a cone by the opposing alliance after being noticed by the referees, how will the situation be scored?
We'll have to see it. It's one of those where, was the micro beacon something that the referee saw? If it's not, then it didn't happen.
All right, let's see. Let's see. Joshua is asking, we have had a few matches where our autonomous and the opposing alliance's auto goes to score at the same time. We then missed the high junction that also hooked onto the opposing alliance's cone and accidentally stops them from scoring. If this happens, does our team get a penalty?
If you're over the center line junction and you're jousting at the center line, then there's no penalties for pretty much anything.
All right. And our final question is from Carlo. Can you place a cone and then your beacon on top if you placed it one at a time?
Yes, definitely. But the human player puts the cone in the substation, human player puts the beacon in the substation on top of the cone. Definitely.
Uh-oh, somebody's being sneaky here. Fulminata. Will Wi-Fi channels be assigned to teams at inspection? We are planning to use auto at this time. So we will have Danny, which is one of the senior engineers from FIRST there, monitoring our channels. But at this time, we're planning to use auto. And that concludes tonight. Bill, if you want to close us out. Of course, this doesn't mean you can't ask questions in person at the event. But we're a little over an hour into this, so want to be respectful of people's time.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody, one, congratulations, you made it here. So enjoy it. Those of you who are traveling, remember, robots get sick too. Make sure that you travel with your robot well. Make sure that it is, it's not just kind of thrown in the back of a car. Make sure it's, strap it down, make it, make it get here in one piece. Well, up and simple in one piece, or belt, I should say. Make sure that you're doing your inspections beforehand, and good luck. Have fun. This is your time.
All right, that concludes the meeting, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. If you need to recap something, you can always catch it on YouTube. It'll be on our YouTube channel shortly. We'll see you up in Belton. on the 24th through the 26th. Safe travels, and we'll see you soon.